My Lords, we come to the third oral question. Lord Holmes of Richmond.
My Lords, with respect and sombre reflection, I beg leave to ask the question, standing in my name on the order paper.
My Lords, the Government is fully committed to Holocaust education and believes that every young person should learn the lessons it teaches us today. That is why it is the only compulsory topic in the history curriculum. It is important pupils understand the appalling events of the Holocaust and the possible consequences of anti-Semitism and extremism in order to understand how society can prevent the repeat of such a catastrophe. And I'm grateful to the Noble Lord for laying this question on Holocaust Memorial Day.
Lord Holmes of Richmond.
My Lords, survivors play such a profound role in our education programmes. As their numbers become fewer, can I ask my noble friend the Minister what steps Her Majesty's Government are taking to ensure that all of their testimony is taken down, transformed through all modern means, not least AI, AR and VR, to ensure that all that testimony is available for future generations forever? My Lords, 6 million reasons.
My Lords, the Government has funded several initiatives of the nature that the Noble Lord outlines. The new National Memorial will ensure that the voice of survivors is retained and the witnesses thereof. We have included support for initiatives such as the National Holocaust Centre and Museum in Newark, which does use AI to capture the survivor testimony.
I call Baroness Whittaker.
Lords, how has the Government ensured that school children know also about the Roma element of the Holocaust, so little known and yet responsible for the annihilation of such a large proportion of their European population? For instance, the Government could put Gypsy, Traveller and Roma history on the school curriculum, as requested by the Council of Europe and as included in previous Holocaust Education Trust Memorial Day ceremonies. Would not this help to reduce the race hatred experienced by these communities?
My Lords, I thank the Noble Lady for her involvement in the stakeholder group for Gypsy, Roma, Traveller people, and I'm grateful for their contribution to the national strategy that is being led by the Government for Gypsy, Roma, Traveller people in the UK. And there are resources available, and when the Holocaust is taught on the curriculum, it is of course open to schools to include other groups, other genocides, and it's good to note that the IHRA has produced a non-legally binding definition as well of the genocide and discrimination of Gypsy Roma people.
Lord Dalachia.
My Lords, I was able to visit Auschwitz and the Birkenau camp during a visit that was arranged by the Holocaust Education Trust. There were over 100 people in this party, mainly students, and I think this is an experience none of us are ever likely to forget. May I say that the Holocaust Education Trust ought to be congratulated in the work that they do in this particular respect. May I ask the Minister if she has ever visited these camps? If not, a visit of this nature would be very, very essentially helpful in projecting the work of this particular trust. May I also add that I'm a trustee, I'm a patron of the Holocaust Education Trust and will be able to assist in this particular exercise.
Lords, it is always good to hear of the valuable work that the HET is doing, and that's why the Government gives nearly £2.2 million a year to enable such visits to happen for such students. And I'm grateful for the invitation. I will take that up remotely because I believe that during the pandemic the HET has been very successful in moving those trips online, and thanking for the invitation, which I will duly consider.
Lord Pollack.
Can I thank my noble friend Lord Holmes for asking this question on Holocaust Memorial Day. I praise Her Majesty's Government and the Department for its support for Holocaust education, but my Lords, this Holocaust Memorial Day is different from any other Holocaust Memorial Day. The newly formed interfaith group called Sharaka, or Partnership, was set up last year in the wake of the historic Abraham Accords. Young leaders from Bahrain, UAE and Israel have just committed themselves to a 5-point action plan to include promoting Holocaust awareness, combating online anti-Semitism and countering anti-Semitic delegitimisation of Israel. So would my noble friend the Minister agree with me that the promotion of Holocaust education in the Gulf region is a most welcome difference in this year's observance of Holocaust Memorial Day? And would the Minister be prepared to share good practice and educational materials with Sharaka, a great organisation of forward-thinking young people?
My Lords, I do welcome the extension of that education to the countries that the Noble Lord outlines, and will indeed write to the CPD element of the University College London project that we also fund to make sure that they are aware of that, so that teaching staff can also be made aware of these resources that will help them teach that curriculum well.
Lord Hastings of Scarisbrick.
My Lords, yesterday President Biden abolished the 1776 Trump Commission, which sought to deny the ugly truths about America's slavery history and its treatment of indigenous Americans. We can't eradicate intolerance and racism unless we face our own true full history. So is it not time now that Her Majesty's government boldly sets up a history curriculum commission to incorporate the truths, the facts, ugly or not, about our own slavery history, and also to honour those many 6 million killed in the Holocaust and the millions killed and affected by institutional racist abuse, and teach the full truth of European history?
My Lords, within the history curriculum, English curriculum and citizenship curriculum, there is the flexibility for schools to teach the matters outlined, and they are inspected against producing a broad and balanced curriculum. And as I'm sure the Noble Lord will be aware, characters such as Mary Seacole have had an increasing prominence, I believe, in Key Stage 1 and 2 curriculum. And the Key Stage 2 and 3 curriculums do outline studying, for instance, a non-European society as a contrast. And it was encouraging to note the Historical Association survey of teachers that says that there is an increasing prominence of Black and British history.
I call Lord Watson of Invergowrie.
My Lords, the theme for this year's Holocaust Memorial Day is Be the Light in the Darkness. It encourages everyone to reflect on the depths humanity can sink to, but also the ways individuals and communities resisted that darkness to be the light during and after genocide. My Lords, schools are key in ensuring young people understand history and the need to promote tolerance and respect of those who are different. 5 years ago, a House of Commons Education Committee inquiry into the provision of Holocaust education in schools noted that in many academies, the Holocaust was not required to be taught because they do not follow the national curriculum, and urged the government to take action. So can the Noble Baroness and Minister say what proportion of all schools do now teach the lessons of the Holocaust?
The Holocaust, as I've outlined, is the only compulsory element of the national curriculum for history. The department does not have a role in inspecting schools to see how many schools are teaching particular subjects. That is a matter for Ofsted, who have a new excellent framework in education, and schools are inspected against that they are teaching a broad and balanced curriculum. And of course, schools need to teach the content that is outlined by awarding organisations for GCSEs and A-levels.
Baroness Ludford.
My Lords, I'm on a similar theme, and I want to press the Minister. In the Foreign Office commemoration yesterday, the Foreign Secretary quoted Holocaust survivor Gina Turgle about being secure in the knowledge that others will keep the candle alight. But in the 2016 report into Holocaust education referred to by Noble Lord Watson, the Commons Education Committee heard shocking evidence from the UCL Centre for Holocaust Education that, quote, the expectation of universal Holocaust education is no longer matched by reality. Even in schools obliged to follow the national curriculum, Holocaust education can be cursory or patchy, but over 50% of secondary schools in England, such as academies, are not even required to follow it. The government's response to that recommendation was vague. So I would like to press the Minister now for a more forceful commitment to ensure all schools teach about the Holocaust, preferably not only in history, but in civic education.
It is open to schools within various subjects such as citizenship, English and history to teach the Holocaust, and the government maintains that Ofsted inspects against a broad and balanced curriculum, and academies will retain the freedom that they have, but they are obviously inspected like maintained schools by Ofsted. But we have committed to not only to a national memorial but also to a learning centre alongside the National Holocaust Memorial to ensure that children learn about these events.
Lord Austin of Dudley.
I want to pay tribute to the amazing survivors who use their experience of these terrible events to teach young people about where racism and prejudice can lead. But there will be a time when they'll be unable to speak directly to students. So can I reiterate the importance of ensuring their testimony will still be available for schools to use? And can I ask the government to consider how it could work with training providers to enable programmes like Lessons from Auschwitz, to expand programmes like Lessons from Auschwitz, so that apprentices can benefit from its brilliant work as well?
My Lords, as I've outlined, the Government does fund several initiatives to ensure that that testimony is available to future generations, and I will ensure that the work that we fund for the Holocaust Education Trust is made aware to those of providers who give the training for apprenticeships and others.